problem yesterday. I know a lot of you said that y'all couldn't hear me yesterday, so we're checking that connection. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to like the video. And also, like I said, don't forget to subscribe. If you're on Instagram, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button so you can be notified whenever I come on a video. Everybody, come on into the house. Come on into the house. We got to basically talk today. Oh, we're gonna chop it up today. Oh man, we're gonna get into it today. I'm gonna make some of you all mad today. Oh, we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna make some of y'all upset. But the discussion is very important. It has to do with the so-called Black and Brown coalition that we all think that we have out here with Latinos or Hispanics or whatever you want to call them. We're going to chop it up. We're going to have some game today. And our brother, hip hop star Ice Cube, and of course, the rather distinguished Dr. Claud Anderson. I think they were kind of right about the Democrats. Now the election is over. As you know, Biden is going to be the president, and already, like we've been telling y'all, that they have basically ignored Black people. Okay, at first, Black people wasn't getting that call back, but we're going to discuss it. Ice Cube, did a little video, and he's been telling us about the Democrats. And also, why do white liberals think that they could basically, pick our leaders for us? Why do they think that? And we're also going to be talking about Black economics and how white people think they can handpick our leaders. Okay, that's today on the Lawyer Henderson's show. So hit that thumbs up button. Let's go ahead and have the conversation. If you won't, I really don't pressure you. You can call if you want to at 516-418-5867, 516-418-5867. You can call if you want. If not, I will have the whole show to myself because I have a lot to discuss today. Do we have a Black and Brown coalition? Is there a Black and Brown coalition? In other words, do we and Hispanics, Black people and Hispanics, do they share the same goal? Do Black and Hispanics do we have a coalition with with Hispanics as Black folks? I'm asking the question. It's very important because we've been talking about this for quite some time within the Black community, the Black media. We've been talking about it, and we've been looking at our numbers, and we've been looking at our economic system. The reports just came out. Black people, we're going further into debt. We basically, because of this COVID-19 virus, allegedly it's a virus or infectious disease or what have you. I told you in other commentary that this virus was basically only for one reason and one reason only. Okay? And that is because of wanting to redistribute the wealth, the distribution of wealth. That's the reason why they up here talking about this COVID-19. It is basically to do a lot of things to kill a lot of birds at one time when you have the scientists and the doctors wanting to basically engage in population control. And then you got the politicians wanting to redistribute the wealth specifically back into the hands to increase the wealth of white folks in this country. Well, meanwhile, this situation about Joe Biden talking about they're going to be a dark winter. He basically is letting you know that, that this government is trying to kill some of us. And like I told you in other commentary, anytime a government is plotting to kill its own people, that government is illegitimate. That government is is engaging in all kinds of genocidal pursuits. But we also going to be talking about. We'll leave that conversation for another day. We've been talking about that for a lot now. But let's focus on our economic system as Black people. Let's focus on the fact that we are losing wealth. Now, Dr. Claud Anderson talked greatly about how Black folks was being overran by Hispanics. And I know you can't hear the video, but I am going to repeat a lot of things that he said here. So we have a huge wealth gap between Black people and white folks. And remember, in 2019, they went on Capitol Hill talking about reparations. And so, therefore, now Black people, it's not all of us, but we have enough Black folks on code. We demand, not want, we demand something in return for our vote. Now, the Democrats has been doing all kinds of things to try to get us to the polls or get us to return our voting documents back to them, to the election board or whatever, Secretary of State or whatever. And stubborn people like me just have not done that. And then you get the Black folks who say, oh man, somebody died for you to have the right to vote. I don't care. Okay? Because that's not the point here. The point is that we have a wealth gap that is wide. Okay? And basically, as Tariq Nasheed pointed out, we have to be very clear about voting and not getting things out of it. We have to be very clear about the fact that we have not yet got anything in exchange for our vote, and there is no Black and brown coalition. I don't care how you word it. Dr. Claud Anderson talked about the fact that Hispanics was trying to come over to the United States and have taken over in certain places in Dallas and Florida and also in California, and now is saying that they are now the majority minority. You understand? So there's no Black and brown coalition. I don't care if you basically decided that you're going to, as a Black person, date a Latino or a Hispanic and say, well, we just need to basically come together. That's bull crap. We have no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark told us, our elder, Dr. John Henry Clark, talked about it before his passing. The legendary Dr. John Henry Clark taught us that we are the only friends that we have. Just look in the mirror. This Black and brown coalition is going to stomp us in the head. If we know the history of Hispanics and the history of other people, we have often seen that they basically had sold us out as black folks. In fact, the Native Americans owned slaves. The Indians owned slaves. You understand? So they basically was doing the same thing that the white man and the Arab man was doing to us as black folks. There is no black and brown coalition. We are in this fight alone. And I don't care who thinks that we have allies. We do not. And I'm going to try to tell you about certain types of incidents to prove that. Dr. Claud Anderson taught us that have been undermined and we have been placed to be in a segmented labor group and labor class at the bottom level of everybody else. We can no longer, ladies and gentlemen, as black folks, continue to live off in just $1.4 trillion a year. That's no money. We have not advanced after the Civil War. We still only make up only 1.5 or 1% of this economic system after the end of the Civil War. We got to get this straight. There's no black and brown coalition. We talked about this. There have been numerous of times into which we have basically have gotten indicators that we are in trouble as black folks economically. And we have been ignoring those indicators. We basically are going to have people in the black community that's just going to be falling out dead because of the lack of having the necessary things that they need in order to maintain your survival here in this country, in this world. We need to start basically concerning ourselves with wealth. Other races and everybody else, they move not towards multiculturalism, not towards a black and brown coalition. Every person in this world have moved in terms of ethnicity. They have moved in terms of looking out for their own people. And we're going to learn, of course, here as black people, that this multiculturalism and this black and brown coalition is going to get us and keep us in trouble. We have to look at what's going on, why we've been miseducated by the civil rights leaders and other folks. You understand? And we got a lot of people going out here talking about we have a black and brown coalition. As soon as the Hispanics, after the year 2000, became the majority in California, you've seen how they had basically had taken over city government, city politics. They have basically told black folks, we're the majority here in the city, and now we're going to do something for our people. Let's look at some stupidity that black people have been doing, thinking that we have a black and brown coalition. And we have been doing some of the most stupidest and ignorant stuff because we think we got friends. Dr. Amos Wilson said that's the worst thing that black folks have within their mentality is thinking that they have friends. Foolish, ignorant. But I want to take you back to the article here talking about Proposition 14 in California. I think it is in Los Angeles. And we're at the time that we were helping other races build a so-called Black and Brown coalition, where we basically, as Black folks, dropped the ball. It says here by Max Felker Cantor, 5 Fighting the Segregationist Amendment, Black and Mexican American Responses to Proposition 14 in Los Angeles. Page 143 to 175, it's summed up here that on June the 20th, 1964, the United Civil Rights Committee, the UCRC, a predominantly African American civil rights organization, began a voter registration drive in Los Angeles, Black and Mexican American neighborhoods, in hopes of defeating Proposition 14 in the November election. The goal of the drive, according to the city's weekly African American newspaper, the Los Angeles Sentinel, was to register 200,000 non-voting Negro and Mexican Americans in the local community in a massive all-out effort to defeat Proposition 14. The Anti-Fair Housing Initiative. The UCRC believe that increasing the number of Black and Mexican American voters will bolster let me see what it says here. Will bolster the importance of making sure that there is going to be fair housing for Blacks and Latinos. Okay, and so what we did is that we told the Hispanics that we would help them, and here in California, where it was a was a bond, a ballot issue, and the proposition had basically passed. Okay, with about 51% 10 of the vote, and no is 48.90%. You understand? And so that when we started to increase and helping other people to gain the right to vote, and we started to grow in coalition with Hispanics and Latinos and others, and build a coalition to help certain types of policies to be passed, we've seen how the Latinos have basically ignored us, or Hispanics have ignored us once they got their agenda met. You see, once the agenda was met, and all of the fair housing that we were helping them to fight for in California and other types of cities, they left. They left us hanging out to dry. You understand? So we have no friends. And the borders was open, trying to get more Mexicans to come over, and basically so they can outdo and replace Black people in this country. So look at what is going on for a lot of things that we have helped other races, and yet we look at ourselves, and Black people have constantly been at the bottom of every political, social, and economic issue. We have basically saved all of these people and helped them to build within the community, where now our neighborhoods are no longer Black communities, they are multicultural communities, and now they're the majority, and they're going to come in and tell us what the policy is. This reminds us of what I was telling y'all about what white people did when we first met the Europeans. At first, when they met the Indians, when they came to the United States, and then the Indians were very friendly with them, and then they came and conquered the Indians. Then you had white people coming and being friendly with the African and conquered the African. And now in our own neighborhoods and communities, we're seeing Black people allowing Hispanics and Asians, Arabs, and other people to come in their community in the name of multiculturalism, and they're now dominating our economic system within our communities. While we are having to then flee out because we don't want to stay in the rundown neighborhoods. If there was not money inside the Black community, then why would these people be in the mix? Why would the Koreans be in the midst of our neighborhoods if we did not have wealth within the Black community? See, nobody has not yet answered that question. You see, I want to take it a step further. That we basically keep on looking for Democrats and looking for politicians to help us to build up an economic system. We're out here right now wanting reparations. And yet, basically, we still believe in a multicultural society. But if we got reparations, then we just and we're going to just basically give it back to people because we still have this mindset set that we have a black and brown coalition in which we don't. You see, what do a vote for a politician mean to us? You see, when we had the civil rights generation tell us that people died for us, and having the civil rights generation telling us that we should go out and vote without expecting something in exchange for our vote, it's really now is coming to the fact of what we are really, really, really now, looking at that as being ridiculous, foolish, and asinine. And we basically now is saying, nope, we as the younger black generation have to stop listening to what our parents are talking about when we talk there about civil rights. Because they were basically responding because of out of fear and out of cowardice. And they were responding because they did not want to face the European head on. And we got to get this fear of dying out of the midst. We all are going to die. The white man is going to die. He has no real basics of just conquering people without the concept of him knowing that if someone basically stand up to him, he can die as the same as you can die. So this fear of dying is something that black folks got to get out of their mindset. We're all going to die. We're going to die and we're going to go on, and there are going to be other people coming in this country, in this world. I basically said that to say this, that we have literally came to the fact that white people are going to now be a minority in the United States. And at the time that it's going to move us away from having the majority of white people in the country, is that what Joe Biden's talking about is he talking about this country is going to be minority white. He is basically saying that blacks and Hispanics together will have the number that could basically outvote and outprove certain types of advantages that black people, if they have built a coalition with Hispanics and others, could basically vote on certain things for their advantage. But the problem happens to be is that we've seen the history of Hispanics often side with white folks. You see, they have that history. So much of a black and brown coalition. Even the Native Americans, like I told you, sided with white folks during slavery and themselves owned slaves after the Civil War. there was, like I said, Native Americans, they were still owning slaves, refused to let them go after bills have been passed that we were free. You understand? Kind of remind me of Frederick Douglass when he was brought in to head the Freedmen's Bureau. You had white people, of course, who basically, when the Freedmen Banks was set up, was stealing all of this money from black folks because black folks couldn't read. So white people were basically handling the money, and they were not basically mismanaging it. They was actually stealing the money that was designed to basically for us so that we can build up our communities and our economic system. You see, this is what we have always faced in this country: the predatory lending, the predatory policies that white people have basically put on us so that we cannot basically deal with our economic system. We basically seen how these so-called black intellectuals went to Congress and talked about the reparations bill, where they want a panel to study reparations. That this is a panel to have a bill to basically determine whether or not you're going to have a panel to give black folks reparations when the evidence is clear that we are owed. You understand? We must recognize here is that we basically continue to play the same games. White people are going to be a minority in their country in this country by 2053 or 2045, 2053, somewhere around there. They're going to be a minority. The vast majority of jobs and political careers are going to be on the backs of blacks and Hispanics. We've seen, of course, that we have now a different type of situation here. Rather, we're going to look to see that the Hispanics, who are supposed to be a so-called coalition with us, have often basically turned their back on us. And they have often basically, like I said earlier, sided with white folks. And we can basically look at their record and basically turning their back on us. And we can see that they often put people like Kamala Harris and Representative Ocasio-Cortez and other people within these political realms, give them some type of platform, and they basically help to misguide the community as well, among other folks. You have the civil rights leaders, they here to get the white elitists that we're following them. No, the era of civil rights and the NAACP and the Urban League and all these other clowns representing the majority and the vast majority of us, that game is gone. Okay? The day of telling us about diversity, that game has ended with enough of us that's on code. Yes, don't get me wrong, you still have black folks out there talking that nonsense. But those black folks are in the wind themselves. The black people who are on code, the ADOS or the foundational blacks who are on code, we basically have a new agenda. This agenda is talking about our economic system. It is not up here pussyfooting and basically thinking that we're going to get somewhere by building a black and brown coalition. Because Hispanics or Latinos have already told us that they are in it. They've shown so many countless of times that they basically are in this for themselves, as any kind of group who are in their right mind would have basically made that decision. It is only black folks who believe in this black and brown and we have to love everybody. No, we're done with that. We in Black Intellectual Society, we're educating the youngsters in the grassroots. We're basically educating them on a new, different type of approach in order to get our tangibles from these white liberals and all these other politics. The ideal that we have to then build a coalition with other races, that is not going to be the game that we're willing to play no more. You see, going out there talking about we're going to vote our way out of oppression. Basically, that is foolish, it's asinine. We're not no longer playing those games. That's the reason why we got the civil rights generation out of the room here. It was not the civil rights generation who went down there and stood up against the police during the George Floyd's murder. What we have done and what we've shown is that we have a new, different type of approach to dealing with of getting our tangibles. We're not going to take the same route as our parents. Our parents' generation was basically fooling themselves, and then they would have civil rights people who would go down there and they would drink coffee with somebody like Lyndon B. Johnson or President Kennedy and all these people, and then after they leave, they would claim that these guys are all right. No, we're not. We're not there to just set in for just a few of us to get crumbs. And so they think these white elitists and liberals think that they're going to be able to pick our leaders. That game is gone. And that's the reason why at the same time of the so-called COVID-19 hit, the politicians and the white elitists and their bought and paid for bootlegs, they're now behind closed doors and they're trying to then redistribute the wealth into the hands of themselves. You understand? And this is the problem that we have because we have often seen this done when they get ready to basically, to redistribute the wealth. They basically engage in some type of so-called crisis, and before you know it, everybody else is getting rich while we as Black folks are coming up empty-handed. And we're saying to hell with that. But if you want to really look at what Hispanics basically, and the reason why they're not our brothers and sisters, you would have to recognize that they don't even want us to basically have a relationship with them. Look at what Alexandria Cortez said here. She said here that the conversation around race, well, the article reads that conversation around race and ethnicity have been prominent into the media because of the onslaught of diverse, newly elected public officials. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, is one of them. In an interview on MSNBC, she addressed her heritage with respect to her race. Okay, in other words, this woman said, I think in one of her interviews, somebody got her or asked her a question. She said that doesn't mean that I'm black or whatever. She basically said a lot of crap about being black. In other words, before I read the article, she's telling you that I would rather take my chances being a Latino woman despite my African heritage. But anyway, the article reads that in no secret that throughout the Latino community, there are three major racial influence: Africa, European, and indigenous. And depending on the person's country of origin, it has been well established that one of these influences can be dominant or they can be equal. Ocasio-Cortez is a New Yorican, whatever pronounce that, a New Yorican. I hope that's what it says. A person of Puerto Rican descent, born and raised in New York. In the interview, she talked about her heritage, citing, "My identity is the descendants of many different identities. I am the descendant of African slaves. I am the descendant of the indigenous people. I am the descendant of Spanish colonizers. I am a descendant of all sorts of folks. That doesn't mean I'm black. That doesn't mean I'm native, but I can tell the story of my ancestors." You see? As she would be correct. This interview launched a conversation on Twitter, which highlighted the misconceptions and misinformation of race and identity among Latinos. There were many people who felt like being Latino excludes people from being black, and others who felt that having one drop of black blood makes someone black. Both are inaccurate, the article writes. First, it should be noted that Latino is not a race. It is an ethnicity built on the premises of a group of people of different races who share a common language, Spanish or Portuguese. In other words, we're going to build this particular ethnicity so that therefore we don't have to identify with being black. The article goes on to say that so the notion that black Latinos can't take from a culture that is inherently theirs is really based up on not fully understanding or acknowledging that the largest number of descendants of enslaved Africans, or in Latin American Brazil to be exact. Further to that point, Brazil has the second largest African population outside of Africa and the world. Then Colombia, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic would follow. It goes on to say that blackness isn't solely a United States concept. On the other side of the coin, implementing the one drop rule as a way to attach non black people to blackness is equally detrimental to this conversation. All right? Now we get down to the nitty bitty of what the article is about here. The one drop rule was only a practice found within the United States and was as an unspoken law that never existed on the books. It was merely a way to stop blacks fathered by their masters from gaining economic or social wealth by inheritance. You understand that? Did I make myself clear, ladies and gentlemen? Let me read that again. It was merely a way to stop blacks fathered by their masters from gaining economic or social wealth by inheritance. In other words, we don't want you Negroes to have any kind of things while we basically is having sex with you. Doesn't mean that you have an ounce of us in you. You niggas are still not going to get any kind of economics. You understand? So it goes on to say that it is no secret that many diasporans are black descendants of enslaved Africans have European ancestry, but that wouldn't make them white. Ocasio-Cortez validation of her heritage and comprehension of where she falls within a reference to her race is reflection. It is perfectly fine for her to acknowledge what makes her and who she is without being deceptive or manipulative when it comes to inserting herself in black spaces. In other words, here, you're not going to tell me that I am a black woman here. I'm going to identify with being a Hispanic, you see, because a Hispanic means then that I can get a little bit more things. And when you Negroes talk about what black folks should get, well, then I will come over there and say that, oh, yeah, we have a black and brown coalition there, you see. And that's exactly what black people have been falling for. Dr. Claud Anderson taught us there, along with others, Amos Wilson and others taught us that you're going to see what black Hispanics is all about, and we are seeing what they are all about. They basically want to be the more of the minority buffer class that is going to identify with white people. You understand? And so when Joe Biden talk about that we need to start working with the Hispanics because this is going to be a majority minority country by year 2053, or 2045 is probably at the stages of it. But what we're going to be seeing, though, is that we're going to be seeing that this coalition that they're talking about is basically for either we get to get on the program, as what he's saying as a white man, is that we better get on the program and start building this black and brown coalition, or we're going to be left out of tangibles, despite the fact that we have not gotten no damn tangibles from this country, by the way, that we're owed anyway. So why would we want to basically get on board with the Hispanics when basically every time that we have gotten on board with the Hispanics, they have gotten everything and we have not got anything. When they became the majority in Los Angeles, they said, well, look, we are going to then write policies and law as it relates to ethnicity. They're in Florida right now in certain parts where Hispanics and Latinos are the majority. They are basically more racist to black folks than any other race within those communities. And that's because black folks are not on code down there. Okay? Black people are still thinking that you have to have coalitions in order to build, and that is wrong. Black folks are afraid to fight off. So we have a lot of groups here who wants to basically fight us, and they want to come over here to be the buffer class. The Asians are doing the same thing. Okay? And so they'll be in this buffer class. You're going to see that they're going to always side with white folks. Like I told you, the Native Americans did the same thing during slavery. I mean, they were so stubborn. They were like, no, we're not letting these black slaves go. Like, what the hell do you mean you're not letting the black slaves go? You know what I'm saying? They were basically doing the same thing that white folks was doing when white people basically were robbing us from all of the loans that we're supposed to got during the Freedmen's Bank, and the Freedmen's Bureau was set up for us after the Civil War. And we basically look at this and we saw that we did not have no friends. The late great Dr. John Henry Clark taught us that we have to look at this as going along, okay? Because the evidence show you what Joe Biden is talking about when he says that we have to build a coalition and working with the Hispanics. He is basically saying that you all, despite you all going to be together will be a majority, and that you will basically outnumber white people by year 2045, 2050, or what have you. We as white people are still going to be running the country. so he was basically arrogant. You know, we white people, we're not going to basically give in to nobody. you know, you don't see no surrendering from the European, do you? See, that's how arrogant white folks have been. You see, white people have been stealing for years. They have stolen our loans. They've stolen land at the time. When we were, like I said, when they set up the Freedmen's Bank, they stole the loans that were supposed to be made by black folks, and we did not get none of our money. And then they're going to try to then come and tell us that we're not owed anything. They cannot be. See, this is how you basically lie. And you basically have to have all kinds of propaganda. White people will go on the news. You have your Sean Hannitys and the Sean Hannitys and all the other white commentators. They'll come on. You'll have your white politicians say, well, why should we basically give you niggers reparation? It's not only about giving us reparation, because we have also can show you that we basically were supposed to set up loans into which we can also show you that that money was stolen from us as well. You understand? That money that was set up during the Freeman banks was given to us because of being enslaved and because you signed the 12th, 13th, 14th Amendment so that we can have, economic inclusion. And then when we set up the banks, there was all kind of predatory lending, and also the money was stolen by the white people that you put in charge to basically give us the loan money. You see, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about how uh, all of this racism that we see now is happening. White people have never kept their word, and they're not going to. And then yet they're going to say, well, why should we basically give y'all reparations? Y'all owe it. Y'all owe it. And therefore, we don't need no black and brown coalition because we have evidence. We fought in every war that this nation's had. You don't have the Latinos and anybody else with that record. You don't have Asians with that record. You don't have any other group with that record. The only people who have that record is black folks. We're the only people who has been throughout this history that has had this country's back and continue to have the back. Like I said, we fought in every war. Okay, so therefore, we basically don't need a coalition. But see, yet they have allowed Hispanics and Mexicans and illegals to come over here. And illegals, as Dr. Claud Anderson pointed out, now they have this DACA law that Obama signed with an executive order so that they can get a lot of things out of this government that black folks are still asking this government for. So when we talk about getting something in exchange for our vote, we have a right to basically to demand that. And so when somebody knocked on your door, they were knocking all on my door at my house, talking about, "Are you going to vote? We got you registered as a registered voter for the Democrats." I said, "No, I just haven't had enough time to change my vote to an independent because I don't trust no parties no more. We have to start getting something in exchange for our vote." And the woman, she got upset with me. A white woman got so upset. And then they had this black guy call me. He was he came from a foreign country. You see, the Democrats are so desperate now that we're not paying them no attention that they can't even explain how really Joe Biden won. So they had to come out and start lying, talking about he got more votes than Obama. And they already on the conservative and false news. I mean, Fox News. They basically also asking the question, how did this man win the vote? This man I mean, regardless of what you feel about Trump, fine, I get it. But how did this man, Joe Biden, win? This man was not filling up no arenas. Nobody will come to this man's arena. They did not want to come listen to him. He was basically just a person that everybody was ignored. And you can't say it was because of COVID, because Trump had people at his rallies. How did this man really win? That's the question you have to ask yourself, okay? Is because when they basically wanted to get him out of office because he was basically this hardcore white supremacist that the white elitists and their bought and paid for bootlicks was saying, man, we can't maintain this society if we're going to basically have all of this chaos and turmoil that we see going on in the United States. We're losing power here as the white elitists. So we're going to have to stop the voting. And as you see how the voting stopped around 3 o'clock, and they went down and told the Electoral College and went to the white elitists and said, no, although Trump got this fair and square, we're still going to choose Biden because he's the soft core white supremacist, even though that he's been out there talking all kinds of crap. So there's nothing real different about the two of them. It's nothing real. It's not the lesser. We're talking about the lesser of the two evils here, you see. But this black and brown coalition is going to get us in trouble. That's the reason then why you have to ask the question as to why do white people like to try to pick our leaders for us? Why do they like to pick our leaders? Because, leaders can be compromised. Leaders can be murdered. Leaders can be basically, um, they can be co-opted as often as we have seen, of course. And when there's one time when the leadership decide that it's not going to go along with the white supremacist policy, then you'll find and see that that leader has been murdered or killed or something like that. And so that's the reason why there's a dangers in leadership. I want to read to you what Dr. King had said. He was a black leader. He said that it didn't cost the nation one penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation one penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and it's undergoing a radical redistribution of wealth of its economic power. That's what we're going through right now, a redistribution of economic power. So the COVID-19 had hit basically because the white elite is wanting is in struggle with the scientists, and the scientists and the doctors are wanting more money, and so therefore they have it on that end. Why then we use the medical industry as a way to also now deal with the economic system and the flows of the economic system. The COVID-19 so-called virus is going to help us in the exchange of the distribution of wealth. We've seen, of course, a lot of countries that have gotten billions and billions of dollars of money, and they have got a lot of money because of supposedly after COVID hit that they were basically doing bad. But we've seen, of course, companies like Boeing that's sitting on billions of dollars. Basically, they are the ones who contribute to their own demise or their own downfall. But because we have a so-called pandemic, now it's time to write them a check, even though they're responsible specifically for their own destruction and their own economic decline. And Boeing is just one company. There's others like that. But you'll see how universities like Yale and others who have gotten billions of dollars as well, other people who've gotten loans from the government who really didn't need it. And we still are asking where the black bailout. And that's the reason why I brought up Ice Cube in this particular situation, because he may have made sense. Okay. And of course, D.L. Hughley coming out talking about, oh, well, we have to, he's not the president right now. And that, remember when D.L. Hughley was talking about that Biden was not the president or what have you and stuff, and Ice Cube is saying, we got to demand something before these people get into office. And so everybody was saying, just wait until he get elected. Just wait until Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe Biden, just wait until he get elected, and then he will do some things for us. Problem with that is that hell, we've been looking at the Democrats' record for years. Those of us who are in the Black intellectual society, and we have seen that the Democrats has never done a damn thing for us as well, and neither have the Republicans. So therefore, now they're saying you got to basically have a black and brown coalition. That is dangerous. We do not need a black and brown coalition. That's the last thing that black folks need, is to start getting people to think that they're going to help us. The black and brown coalition here is that we have to be able to understand what is going on with the redistribution of wealth. And people are not going to really help Black folks because if you look at history, you'll see that we have not been helped by anybody at all. So when Dr. Claud Anderson taught us about setting in his book Powernomics and the 5 stages of what we should be doing, he basically pointed out that we had Black people running all into trying to get into political offices, and we have not built up our economic system yet. That is very dangerous. It is so dangerous that we basically now is seeing that we have been stagnant economically within the system. When they went to Washington to talk about this reparation bill, you had people like Julianne Malvo, who basically made great points on Capitol Hill about that we are worse compared to 1910 due to predatory economic practices. But as I sat and watched that hearing, I overheard a lot of them who had went there to speak about reparations on our behalf tell them that they don't want to check. So what's the purpose of going to Congress to talk about it if you decided that we don't need it? No one basically can tell us as to why these economic conditions that we're in. No one can really tell us truthfully as to how, besides the predatory economic practices that the federal government does against us. Nobody can tell us, explain why they want Black folks to stay on the bottom. Nobody can explain it to us. And all this lie about, oh, it's fair and it's this and it's there, stop it. Stop it. This nation has never been fair to Black folks. Stop it. Okay? The fact is, I want to read you this here, this article. It's very good. It says here in fortune.com. So, like I said, going back to, the white liberals, white elitists, any white people who basically try to pretty much put out some Black folks and say that these are the people who are going to be representing us. These are going to be the Black folks. These are often Black people handpicked by the white supremacist system to try to make it appears if they have some type of knowledge and they can fix it and try to then rationalize why we're in this predicament. But Fortune magazine, of course, said that there's 19 Black economists to celebrate and know this Juneteenth and beyond. Now, this article was basically written June 19, 2020. And it says that as the world grappled with unrooting systematic racism, a conversation calculated into collective consciousness by the death of George Floyd, it is imperative that the Black economists become a household names. Their work will move us through the current moment to enable a long-lasting future that unpins the oppressions in the Black community that subsequently harms the economic system at large. Economics, a discipline whose core focus is exploring who gets what, where, when, and why, is of great interest to Black people, who too often find themselves on the wrong side of the American divide in wealth and income. But they face barriers in matriculating into the profession, as Lisa Cook and the Annie Griffin, Opuku Ayaman noted in a recent New York Times article, it was a mistake for me to choose this field. The most recent data from 2017 show that only 3.2 of the doctoral degrees in economics are awarded to Black people each year. More than 52% of Black economists, we're going off here on Instagram here in 26 seconds. Go ahead to go to YouTube so that you can finish our video essay. Where was I? The most recent data from 2017 show that only 3.2 of doctoral degrees in economics are awarded to Black people each year. More than 52% of Black economists experience racism and or discrimination, according to 2019 report by the American Economic Association, and less than half of 1% of all top economics paper across 30-year period explicitly address race and ethnicity. In other words, we have economists, Black economists like scholar Julianne Malveaux and Peter Q. Blair, Jehovah Williams, Christian Brody, William Daugherty Jr., Derek Hamilton, Trevon Logan, William Johnson, Peter Blair Henry, Susan Collins, and some others, with Ebion Washington. We have all of these so-called Black economists, 19 of them, on the Forbes.com news article, and yet we could not get them to sit down to discuss what's going on economically with Black folks. Even if they basically, only one who I think that was in Fortune, the Fortune.com magazine, I think only Julianne Malveaux was one of the only ones spoke on Capitol Hill during the reparations hearing. So why is these Black economists, why are we just now hearing about these folks? Was this somebody who Fortune.com and all these other people have chosen for us to be the so-called Black economists that we are to look for and to basically get some type of references on? About our economic problems within the Black community. Why was these 19 Black economists picked? And who picked the Black economists? No one can tell us who picked these Black economists. No one can tell us as to why these Black economists, like Julianne Malveaux, has not came together with other economists to talk about the the economic situation and what we should do about it. All right, so here we have other types of situation about what Ice Cube and Dr. Claud Anderson were talking about, that we really need to talk about our economic system. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All right, so let's go to a phone call. Area code 314, go ahead and talk about this issue here.
I don't know, Mr. Lawrence. You know, a good economist just passed away.
And who was?
Williams, I don't know if you've ever.
Well, I'm sorry. What was the name? What was the name of it?
Walter Williams.
Walter Williams. Okay, great Black economist, right?
Yes, he was a good person on the subject matter. And you got Shelby still on the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I will just read this Forbes article, and I'm still kind of perplexed about what these people are talking about.
Have you ever heard
George Floyd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who picked these. I don't. What would you think that Fortune.com was trying to do to say that these are 19 black economists that we should celebrate? Why are we celebrating these black economists? What have they done for us?
Well, apparently they teach. From what I'm saying, they probably located in universities. It's what I'm reading here. The University of Illinois, the Urbana, Champaign. And basically what economists do is give suggestions based on trends and so on and so on and so on. Actually, see, this where the problem comes in. You got people that look at blacks as being a separate nation in the United States. Blacks are not a separate nation in the United States. They are United States citizens. So you as an economist, how can you propose a plan for a targeted group? Would not your plan, if you're teaching in school, be for the country at large? Now, as far as some of these issues, it's quite natural, or should I say quite easy, to figure out what's at the helm of some of these problems. And I would say education. When you're talking about being able to go out and capture wealth, well, you have to have something that someone is willing to pay you well for. And we know that when black young people do qualify, or shall I say, do they go through the problem of obtaining what it is that is in high demand, they are practically snatched by these corporations.
By the corporations, yeah. Big corporations snatch them up real quick. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because they need them. And you hear people say, well, blacks shouldn't be working for these white corporations because they're furthering white supremacy. And my question is this, well, what you got for them? They have a family that they want to raise and experience all the other things of being a productive citizen. And you tell them that they should not, and I know you don't heard this from some voices too, that you should not be working for whites. That's a bunch of malarkey. So I think that Lawrence Nookin, I think that one of the biggest problems is education. And here we go back to Donald Trump again. I think one of the last bastions of helping to see that more than what you presently have, and that's opening up one last option, and that's school choice with vouchers. Why you need the vouchers? Because you have families out there that is wholesome, that is functional, but they are disadvantaged because they're poor. And I don't think that the child should be punished by making them stay in an environment where there's data shows there's nothing good coming out. The parent want to put their child someplace else, and they should have the right to. And I think that the money that that child will receive for staying in that environment where nothing productive is coming out of it, academically sound, then the parents should have the ability to put their child where they feel is best for their overall long-term educational goals. And let the money follow. That's what Donald Trump was proposing. Now, you know who's against that, Lawrence?
Who is
organizations like NAACP, Teachers Union,
yeah,
both the National Education Association, NEA, and also the American Federation of Teachers, AFT.
Yeah,
they are against that. You know why?
Nope. I guess you gotta tell me.
All them children sitting in that classroom, all them kids sitting in that classroom, Lawrence, that building, teachers, administrators, principals, superintendents get paid. One organization that many public school teachers belong to is, guess who? NAACP.
Right.
They pay dues and donations. So they don't want to let those kids go.
Well, yeah, we gotta.
Here's another thing. Think about this. Think about this real quick. If you got children if you got young students, black students that's coming out of these learning institutions, and they are taking on the skills that's in high demand, like what the National Society of Black Engineers is helping to create ever since 1972. These kids are being paid very well. They're not being paid, they've been paying $65,000, $70,000, $85,000 a year coming out of college with the degrees, with skills that's in high demand. Well, making that kind of money, you're not going to be for social programs.
Right.
You're not going to be for open borders. You're not going to be for high income taxes. You're going to want to have a larger deduction, standard deduction, when you are married, filing jointly. People that don't make much money at all is not likely going to get married. Because, I mean, what are you going to... One reason, the woman that's got the kids, we bring in that old added shade that if there's a man at the house, then they don't get the welfare.
Right.
So you have a system, your systemic is what's keeping black kids, parents, from realizing what they say they want when they poll and survey. Now, this is just one thing. This is not everything. This is just one. And I champion school choice with vouchers.
Right.
So what do you think?
Well, school choice with vouchers is okay, but what I'm really focused on is the curriculum. I know you've been saying that, the curriculum be anything you want. Well, I mean, you just showed me the state constitution for Missouri. I read over that. But if it's not all across the board, then it's still going to be ineffective to us because, everyone basically having their own opinions and different ideas can still get us in this chaos where we're economically still destroyed. And our goal is
not across the board.
Well,
what do you mean not across the board?
Well, specifically, you show me the Constitution from Missouri, right? The state of Missouri Constitution, where
that you said state of Missouri, yes.
Right, where you said
on education.
On education, right? But other
your curriculum can be your curriculum, books, and teaching structure can be whatever the district wants it to be.
Right, but at some point, I'm looking at all the other states as well, and still.
All right, now hang on for a second.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, real quick. Well, that's up to those states. That ain't white folks stopping that. That's up to the people in those states to put those things in place. If they can come out in mass and vote for Joe Biden, well, should they not come out in mass?
Well, let me. That's a good question.
That can champion that?
Right, but that's a good question. You actually think that they went out in mass voting for Joe Biden?
Yeah, why don't they go out in mass and vote for a legislature that's going to push their issue? And here's another point. I've done some. I couldn't do all 50 states. I've done some, and there's some version of what you see in Missouri. Missouri is very. I mean, that's what they say is very tremendous. But you got some that's pretty close. It would take the people to put those things in place. We talk about black folks in these public school districts.
Right.
Whites ain't gonna have nothing to say nothing bad against them because they left those areas.
Who was the one? Who left what area? What are you talking about?
They don't left the urban areas. You talking about urban schools?
Yeah.
Are you talking about? Yeah, you talking about Ferguson-like situation where those suburbs are right outside the urban area is all black necessarily.
Right.
So actually, they in a better position than what they would be in the city because they're dealing with a smaller organization, school district, and they're not dealing with those entrenched politicians that's in these cities.
Right. Okay.
If you go to votesmart.org and type in any prominent black politician, and you will type their name in and look at their positions. You can look at their bio, their speeches, people who have funded them, and so on and so on. Look at their position. And practically every last one are for a federal curriculum. You don't want that.
No, I don't.
It should be up to the parents.
Yeah.
So why would we continue to vote these people in the office? Elijah Cummings, John Lewis.
I don't know why. That's a good question.
And then you get to the old cliche. You vote these people in office that keep pulling you back. So what happens when you try to step away into the direction that you feel is best, based on your research, based on your family sitting down and planning for the niece, the nephew, the son, or the daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they pulling you back, but you voted for them. So if you're trying to take 2 steps forward, they grabbing you and pulling you back 3 steps. Why you keep voting for these fools?
I don't know. It's called pathological normalcy, I guess, because a lot of black folks we just don't get it. We really don't get it. It's basically we just keep on doing the same thing, thinking that we're going to get a different result, which I don't know. Anyway, well, thank you for your call.
Yeah,
go. I think if we,
and real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
one of the reasons why the nation is not as far along as it should be is because you don't have a large enough segment of black society that's doing these tremendous economic, innovative things, creating these businesses in these out-of-the-box areas, and having your students, your kids, take up these subjects, whereas when they graduate, they will be able to apply those skills in your businesses.
Right.
It's very simple.
Right.
All right, now let's get back to your program. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. We're going to be talking about also about Yale University. The U.S. government has sued Yale, claiming illegal favoritism for blacks, Hispanics in admission. What the hell is the government talking about? What kind of special attention is blacks and Hispanics are getting in college admissions? Are you crazy? Come on, let's talk about it though. All right, so the black media has always been doing everything that we can in order to give you a different perspective, but we just had to cover what Insurance Journal, everything, ladies and gentlemen, that we critique here, of course, fair use, giving us right to basically give us a right permission to critique what's going on these news articles, of course. But it says here from the Insurance Journal that U.S. government sues Yale University, claiming illegal favoritism for blacks, Hispanics in admissions. And this was an article on October the 9th, which I'm like, what? The article reads that Yale University was sued by the U.S. Department of Justice, which claims that the Ivy League school illegally discriminated against white and Asian Americans applicants in undergraduate admissions by favoring black and Hispanic ones. Come on, man. Are you serious? White people and Asians were getting discriminated against? Folks, anyway, it goes on to say that the lawsuit appeared to be a part of the Trump administration's campaign against programs in higher education, as well as corporate America meant to correct historic discrimination against the black community. The Labor Department recently sent letters to Microsoft Corporation and Wells Fargo and Company asking how their efforts to double their ranks of black leaders comply with laws limiting the consideration of race in employment. Okay? Now, mind you, as we've been telling y'all in the Black Channel, that this right here is basically offensive. Where we know that affirmative action only benefited white women, of course, that white women are the second largest business owners in this country. Of course, the white man being the the number one business owner. Justice for white people and Asian people have their connection. They are able to go back to Asia and their nation where things don't work out for them in this nation. And you're talking about some discrimination and all this stuff. And Breonna Taylor, the same Justice Department, still haven't arrested her murderers. Come on. The article goes on to write that the lawsuit, which was filed Thursday in federal court in Connecticut, was previously threatened by the government in a letter that gave the university a deadline to agree to stop considering an applicant race or national origin in a 2020-21 admission cycle. Yale responded immediately. It would never abandon its race-conscious process. All persons who applied for admissions to colleges and universities should expect and know that we will judge them on their character, talents, and achievements, and not the color of their skin. Assistant Attorney General Eric Dryban said in a statement to Otherwise is to permit our institution to foster stereotypes, bitterness, and division. End quote. The Justice Department 2 years ago threw its weight behind a lawsuit alleging Harvard University's discriminated against Asian American applicants, and the Educational Department last month said it was opening an investigation of Princeton University after the university's president stated that racism and the damage it does to people of color nevertheless persist at Princeton as in our society as part of an announcement of initiative to diversify the school. You see all of this stuff? This is what we've been talking about. You cannot sit up here and say that there's a such thing as reverse racism. There's not. White people has had an 426 plus year head start over us. There's no such thing as reverse racism at all. It goes on to say that the U.S. claims Yale is violating the federal civil rights law by using the racial and ethnic data as a determinative factor in hundreds of admission decisions each year, rather than as one of the many considerations as the Supreme Court has allowed. Now, the Supreme Court, Dr. Claud Anderson had talked about the Supreme Court. It was a racist, organization designed to basically make sure that black people don't do anything, just like the federal government, just like the FBI was set up, as we talked about many and many times. I want to be clear, Yale does not discriminate against applicants of any race or ethnicity, Yale President Peter Solave said in a statement. Our admission practices are completely fair and lawful. Yale admission policies will not change as a result of filing of this baseless lawsuit. We look forward to defending these policies in court. In fact, I might just write what is called an Acumus brief for Yale. This is the first time I agree with a university. White people and Asian people have the benefits so far. Hispanics and blacks do not have the same benefits as whites and Asians. Come on. The New Haven, Connecticut University has said that its use of race in admission is fully in accord with Supreme Court precedent, and we hope to have the opportunity to explain our positions to the Justice Department. According to the Justice Department lawsuit from 2000 to 2017, the percentage of Black and Hispanic students that was admitted to Yale was higher than the percentage that applied, whereas the percentage of Asian Americans and white students that was admitted was lower than the percentage that applied. This, according to the Justice Department, is part of an illegal discrimination to assure a racially balanced student body. Trump had issued an executive order prohibiting what he termed divisive and harmful sex and race based ideologies in government departments and among federal contractors. The university has said it looks as a applicants as a whole and choosing among thousands of highly qualified students. Spokesman Karen Pearl, is it Pearl or Pert, said before the lawsuit was filed that Yale weighed a multitude of factors, including demonstrating leadership, background, success, and taking maximum advantage of their second school and community resources and the likelihood that they will contribute to the Yale community in the world. Yale said it recruited applicants from low income homes, well as those who are in the first and their families to attend college, but those efforts alone aren't enough to achieve the diversity of experience and background that Yale seek. But assistant from Jenner Lauren, who helped to write this article. Now, I want to say something about this is all full of crap. This is baloney. We basically know that Asians and white people have the upper hand in this world. In anything, we see the Chinese people all in Africa, exploiting African people there. We see, of course, we don't even have to say the record about white people. We have to be able to look at this propaganda and laugh at it. Like I told you, white women benefited from affirmative action. We have to look at why uh, the Trump administration will do some stupid crap and file a basic lawsuit. Like I said, I'm willing to file an economist brief on the behalf of Yale on this one. Okay, I'm just saying. But anyway, join us this week. I know, like we said to you yesterday, um, I was online and you couldn't hear my voice because it was put as that this was supposed to be for kids, and when you do that, they don't show your voice or you can't hear. So we're going to redo the uh, commentary video or the video essay on whether or not is the COVID-19 viruses are safe, and that's going to be tomorrow or maybe Sunday. So, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't made up my mind, but be looking out for that. That is going to be a great man. I had a good commentary on that. I went into the ingredients of the COVID vaccine. I did all of that. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be either Thursday or Sunday. So, ladies and gentlemen, why do we let white liberals join our organization and infiltrate the organizations like the NAACP and other? Why do we allow them to basically, just tell us that this is going to be your leaders and these are the people that you got to basically listen to? That game that we've said over and over and over, that game is over because we have to then start raising Z X, the black millennials. They're basically wanting different leadership. They are discussing with the civil rights generation, and we should too. And we have a lot of black folks my age in our late 30s, 40s, and 50s who are trying to do the same thing that the civil rights generation is doing. And we're saying, the hell with that. No, we have to basically look at what our educational system is. We got to stop calling people black elitists just because white newspapers calling them that. We got to stop basically depending on the white liberals because we see, as Amos Wilson has said, we look some 20 years, we're still in the same predicament. Okay? And we have to understand what's going on. That's the Lawyer Henderson Show today. Take care, everybody. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe. Lawyer Henderson Show was live. See you later.